Hey guys, tonight we step outside into a world where survival isn't measured in years or decades, but in hours. You're standing on the Mammoth Steppe 25,000 years ago, and the Ice Age is in full command. There are no cities, no shelter unless you build it, no warmth unless you earn it. The sun, hanging low on the horizon like a dying ember, offers only the illusion of comfort. And the real question is, can you even fall asleep in a place like this without freezing to death? You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where are you listening from? And what time is it there? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The light is all wrong. It isn't golden or orange, the way it is on a summer evening in a place with trees. Here, it's a wan, chalky disk suspended in a sky the color of wet wool. You squint at it as it dips toward the horizon, more out of habit than hope. The sun offers nothing anymore, just a sense of time passing. You pull your fur-lined hood tighter. Not out of drama, but necessity. The wind doesn't kiss your face. It punches it. And your breath? It doesn't fog. It crystallizes, bursting into tiny flecks of ice that tinkle to the ground like broken glass. You are not alone out here. A small group trudges alongside you. Family, clan, maybe 5, maybe 6 others, all moving in the same direction with quiet urgency. You've been out since morning, gathering dried roots, maybe stripping bark from a rare stunted bush, or hauling back hunks of sinew and fat from a scavenged carcass. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the light is failing, and with the light goes your margin for error. There's a pressure in your chest, not fear exactly, but a kind of ancestral warning system firing off flares. You've learned to trust it. Everyone has. Because once that sun drops out of sight, this whole landscape becomes something else. It goes from miserable to murderous in less than an hour. Already the wind is changing pitch. It whistles now, dragging long fingers of snow across the hard-packed ground. It doesn't fall from the sky. It drifts sideways, skimming the ice like mist with a grudge. You look down as you walk, just to break the monotony. Every step makes a sound, a dry crunch that travels up your bones. The snow isn't fluffy. It's like pressed sugar over stone. And beneath it, frost-shattered earth that's as unforgiving as the sky above it. Off to your right, a cluster of long dead trees huddled together like survivors of some ancient crime. Their bark is scoured clean. Their trunks, stunted and twisted, wear frost like lichen. One of the younger boys in your group kicks a chunk of ice loose from a root and winces. Frostbite begins with carelessness. Everyone knows that. There's no talking now. Conversation wastes heat. And in this world, warmth is wealth. You speak in nods, in gestures. A raised hand means wait. A jerk of the chin means look. A hand to the chest, I'm tired. It's a minimalist language, efficient and honed by centuries of cold. You scan the horizon. It's hard to know where land ends and sky begins. Everything is a shade of gray, white, or the sickly blue of buried glacial ice. But then, there, a break in the sameness, a low, rounded shape, almost absurdly subtle. If you didn't know what you were looking for, you'd miss it entirely. It's home, or what passes for home in this place. A living hill, half swallowed by snowdrifts, its outline barely distinguishable from the landscape around it. But you know better. You know the secrets hidden beneath that mound of earth and hide. And more importantly, you know there's fire inside, and people, and sleep. Your pace quickens, as does everyone else's. Not a run. That would be foolish. Too much sweat, and you'll freeze the moment you stop. But the urgency is unmistakable. You feel it in the way your legs burn and your breath shortens. You're racing the sun, and the sun is not losing. By now your face is numb, except for a single aching spot where your cheek caught the wind just wrong. Your lashes are frosted, and the inside of your nose has sealed shut with ice. You stop wiping it. That just makes it worse. The animal hide over your shoulders feels stiff, crusted with frozen sweat and breath. And still, you walk. Every step matters now. Your hands, buried in mittens of fur and sinew, flex automatically. You do it without thinking. Keep the blood moving. Don't let the fingers die. It's one of those quiet lessons passed down without a word, like not standing still too long, or how to turn your back to the wind without letting your hood get snatched off. The sky deepens in color, though not in warmth. There's no twilight here, no purple or gold, just a dimming, like someone is slowly turning the brightness down on the world. Shadows don't stretch, they dissolve. You can no longer see your own breath. That's not because it's stopped, only that the light has become too thin to catch it. You reach the first familiar landmark. A crude pole made of mammoth femur juts from the snow at an angle. Tied to it with sinew is a strip of hide, tattered and stiff. It flaps lazily in the rising wind. It's not a decoration. It's a signpost, telling you you're close. Just a few hundred more steps. Behind you, someone stumbles. Not badly, just a foot catching in a drift. But it's enough to make the group pause for a heartbeat. You turn. The person stands again, nods. No injury, no delay. The march resumes. The hill grows larger now, clearer. You can make out a thin, dark line bisecting its slope, barely visible beneath the swirling snow. From that slit, a wisp of smoke escapes. It rises in a lazy spiral before being shredded by the wind. That smoke is life. That smoke means warmth. It means that someone stayed behind to tend the fire, that someone is alive, that you might soon be warm too. But you're not there yet. The cold redoubles its efforts as the last smear of sun finally slips below the horizon. You feel the difference instantly. It's as if the world has taken a deep breath and decided not to exhale. The temperature plunges, the air sharpens, the crunch of snow beneath your feet becomes brittle, louder. Your body, already cold, begins to stiffen. Muscles ache. Joints protest. Every breath now stings your lungs like swallowing frost needles. You know what comes next. You've done this before. But that doesn't make it easier. You still have to get through the final stretch. Still have to reach the moor in the hillside. Still have to push your way through the hanging hides and find your place in the circle. But you're close. You can see the silhouettes of others ducking into the tunnel ahead of you. One by one they vanish, swallowed by the warm belly of the shelter. You take one last look at the world behind you. It is vast, it is silent, It is utterly indifferent to your survival. And then you lower your head, clutch your furs tight, and step forward into the dark. At first, the structure doesn't even seem real. Just another drift, another knuckle of land shaped by wind and ice. But as you draw nearer, the contours sharpen. This isn't a hill, it's a defiance. A low, rounded bulge half consumed by snow, but alive in ways the landscape around it is not. It breathes smoke, and inside it holds warmth. You don't walk toward it. You aim for it like a moth drawn to a flicker in the dark. Your boots crunch louder now, the surface beneath them firmer, more compacted. Others have come this way, dozens of times. The snow here has been stomped into icy permanence. A final gust slams against your side, the kind that steals breath and dignity all at once. Your shoulder hunches automatically, as if you could somehow fold yourself smaller and escape the wind. It doesn't work, but you do it anyway. Everyone does. And then, there it is. The mouth. It's not much to look at. A low, oval tunnel half choked with snow, like the burrow of some massive animal. There are no doors, no carved lintels, no welcome mat. Just a slit in the earth, hung with thick, frozen hides that have stiffened into armor. Their edges snap in the wind. They are stitched together with sinew, patched where wolves or time have bitten through. You duck low. Not because it's polite, but because if you don't, you'll hit your head on a mammoth rib. The tunnel entrance is only a meter high, maybe less. That's deliberate. A small hole is easier to defend, against the cold, against the wind, against creatures more curious than welcome. Heat doesn't like open spaces, so you crawl to keep it close. As your hand reaches for the hanging hide, the cold deepens one last time. It's a petty final act from the outside world, like winter flicking your ear as you leave the room. The hide is stiff in your hand. You shove it aside, and everything changes. The moment you cross the threshold, it's like falling into another season. The wind vanishes, just gone. One step and you're underwater in warmth. Not exactly hot, but dense, lived in, used. The air is thick with scent and smoke and people. The cold on your cheeks doesn't fade immediately. It lingers like insult. But your body understands instantly. This is sanctuary. Inside, the dark presses in. You blink. Again. Again. Until finally, your pupils surrender to the firelight. It's not bright. Don't expect torches and chandeliers. The world is dim here, the shadows thick and flickering. But in the center, a low, licking flame offers just enough light to sketch the faces that turn toward you. These are your people. Your eyes pass over them automatically. Not to count, but to confirm. An older man with white in his beard, wrapped tight in fox furs. Two children slumped together like puppies, cheeks red with heat and play. A woman with a long scar on her jaw nods at you from across the space, then turns back to tending something in a hide bowl. You smell meat. It's not fresh, more like the smell of something that's been cooking low and slow for hours. Fat and smoke and hide and earth. It wraps around you the way the cold used to. Only this time, it comforts. You step fully inside and let the hide fall back behind you. A heavy thump, like a book slamming shut. The outside world is gone. There is no furniture here, no corners. The entire space curves, every edge softened by hide and habit. The walls are low and rounded, a dome of survival shaped by hand and instinct. But you don't look at them yet. You're too busy thawing. Your cheeks ache as sensation returns. Your fingers tingle inside their mittens. You stamp one foot, then the other. Someone behind you does the same. A shared ritual, not spoken, just understood. You crouch by the entrance to remove your outer boots. The laces are stiff, but your fingers work quickly. You don't want to track snow into the nest. Not because it's rude, but because snow is sabotage. It melts into moisture, and moisture kills. You set the boots aside near the fire, in a row with others. Steam already rising from their seams. A soft cough breaks the quiet. A baby, maybe 3 winters old, is passed from one lap to another, already dozing despite the noise. You smell the fermented musk of cured pelts, a mix of wolf, fox, and something larger. Reindeer, maybe. It's not unpleasant, just ancient. This is not luxury. It is life. Your eyes adjust further now. You start to see the details, the hidden genius. The low ceiling is not rock, but hide stretched tight across a frame of curved tusks. Some of the ivory is carved. Not decoration, just tally marks maybe. Or the profile of a mammoth, scratched in with love or boredom. The seams between the hides are stitched tight with sinew, so expertly done that you can barely see the joins. In places, tufts of dried moss poke out, a natural insulation stuffed between layers to trap warmth and filter the smoke. Speaking of which, the smoke is real. It doesn't billow, it hovers. A lazy blue haze that clings to the upper dome. You keep your head low. Everyone does. Near the ground, the air is thick but breathable. Near the ceiling? That's for the ghosts. And for the vent. A narrow slit that leads up through the structure and out the top. It breathes like a lung, opening and closing with the weather. Too open and you freeze. Too closed and you don't wake up. It's a science. And someone here, an elder probably, has been adjusting it all day with the care of a priest tuning a sacred flame. The space is full but never crowded. Bodies are arranged with logic. The fire claims the center. Around it, the group forms a circle, faces to the flame, backs to the wall. Behind them, a ring of bundles, tools, sleeping furs. Everything has a place. Everything is in its place. You're home now. Not in a house, not in a room, but in a womb of bone and earth and hide. You feel your shoulders drop for the first time since noon. The air is hot with breath. Your breath. Their breath. 20 people exhaling in quiet harmony, steaming up a bubble in the ice age. And still, you haven't spoken. You nod. Someone hands you a strip of dried meat. Another offers a warm bowl of broth, thick and greasy and perfect. You take it all without comment. Words can come later. Warmth comes now. Someone passes behind you. A hand brushes your shoulder. You don't flinch. That was just a signal. I'm moving past. In this space, bodies touch constantly, but never accidentally. You look around again. There is no ceiling. There are no walls. And yet, this is the safest place on Earth. You made it. The cold is still out there. The wind is still howling. But it can't reach you now. Not through these hides, not through this heat. Not while this fire lives. The fire isn't large. You might even call it unimpressive if you didn't know better. It doesn't leap or roar. It whispers. A slow, constant exhale of warmth and smoke. nestled in a shallow pit at the center of the shelter. But this fire, this small, flickering thing, is everything. Without it, you wouldn't last an hour. You lower yourself closer, careful not to cast a shadow over the flame. The warmth reaches out to you in gentle pulses, not sharp like the cold outside, but slow and steady, like breath against skin. The fire is banked, built not for drama, but for duration. And its smell is unmistakable. Not wood, not here. It smells earthy, oily, a little like burnt hair and cooked bone. You glance at the fuel pile, neatly stacked off to one side. Not logs. That would be a joke in this landscape, where trees are myths and twigs are treasures. Instead, the pile is made of dark, flat bricks, dried mammoth dung, pressed and cured like peat. Alongside them are jagged shards of mammoth bone, yellowed and greasy-looking, split lengthwise to expose the rich marrow channels. They burn hot, these bones, not like wood, more like candles, slow, dense, oily flames that lick but don't consume too quickly. One of the older men tends the fire. He moves with the precision of someone who's done this for decades, maybe longer. No poking, no frantic blowing. He leans in, shifts a dung brick slightly, nudges a glowing bone into place with a carved antler tool. A flare of heat rolls outward. The fire accepts the offering and carries on. Around it, the faces of your people glow in shades of amber and shadow. Eyes flicker, cheeks shine with sweat or steam. The cold has fled from this circle. This is the new sun. You sit shoulder to shoulder with others, and not just for comfort. This is ritual. This is alignment. Everyone has their place, and yours is exactly where it's meant to be. Neither center nor edge, but somewhere between. Enough to share warmth, enough to earn it. The fire is positioned precisely in the center of the room, not by accident. The floor has a slight slope to it, barely noticeable unless you're sitting on it for hours. It's engineered that way to help smoke rise toward the roof vent and reduce pooling in the breathing zone. Clever, isn't it? Ancient HVAC, perfected by trial, error, and generations of people who really didn't want to die in their sleep. A child inches closer, holding something on a stick, probably a chunk of fat or dried meat. He rotates it over the fire with exaggerated care, eyes wide. A few of the adults glance over, but say nothing. It's his test. Will he keep it from falling? Will he blister it or scorch it or do it just right? This is learning by flame. The space around you hums. Quiet laughter. A cough. The shuffling of someone rearranging a sleeping mat in the corner. No one raises their voice. There's no need. The fire hears everything. It's the center not only of the shelter, but of the culture. Stories are told around it. Arguments are settled beside it. Children are born within its glow. And yes, people die near it too, but never alone. You take your place on the packed earth, letting your legs stretch out toward the warmth. The heat prickles at your shins, seeping through your leathers. Your outer garments are still near the entrance, hanging in a row like frozen ghosts, slowly thawing. What you wear now is for indoors. Supple, well-worn hide, soft from body oils and years of use. The hearth crackles. A plume of smoke snakes up toward the roof, disappearing into the vent above. You watch it for a moment, noting how the smoke shifts with the draft. Not enough fresh air coming in? The smoke curls back down and hugs the ceiling. Too much? The fire starts to sputter. But right now, it's perfect. A miracle of balance. And as the fire burns, so do you. Not visibly, of course, but your body is also a fire. Smaller, quieter, but no less essential. You burn calories at a shocking rate out here. Just staying warm through the night is an act of metabolic heroism. Which is why this fire isn't just for warmth. It's a dinner bell. Or more accurately, a dinner altar. The woman across the circle adds another bone to the edge of the flame, this one cracked open lengthwise. Inside is marrow, glossy and red like wet wax. She lets it sizzle just long enough to warm, then scoops it out with a carved spoon made from horn. She passes it to the boy with the stick. He grins and offers his charred morsel in return. A trade. Heat for fat. Fire for fuel. The smell that fills the room now is rich and almost sweet. You inhale through your nose, slow and greedy. There's meat here. Somewhere, roasting on a flat stone near the edge of the coals. Not steak, not like you'd know it. More likely a slice of mammoth flank, tough and oily. It curls as it cooks, the fat rendering off in slow drips. You lean forward, your stomach already waking. This isn't just about taste, it's survival. You've been burning calories all day, walking, hauling, shielding yourself from cold with nothing but willpower and fur. Now you need to refuel. A shallow dish is passed to you. You cradle it in your hands, feeling the heat seep into your palms. It's a broth of sorts, thick, cloudy, heavy with fat. Floating in it are small bits of root, maybe some fermented berries, and unmistakable slivers of tendon and skin. You drink it like it's treasure, and in this moment, it is. Someone laughs softly. One of the elders has started telling a story, not with words, but with rhythm. He taps on his knees with 2 bones, keeping time. The others start to murmur along. It's not a full story yet, just the skeleton. The warmth of the fire draws out the muscle. Later, if there's time, he'll speak it fully. But for now, the fire listens. You shift slightly, edging a little closer to the blaze. Not too close. Everyone knows the smell of singed fur. But close enough to feel your knees go from cold to tingly to warm. You flex your toes inside your boots. Life returns, one nerve at a time. The fire will be fed all night, but it won't roar. That would be wasteful. Instead, it will glow like a quiet heart, pulsing life through the body of your shelter. You look around the circle again. These people are not guests. They are not roommates. They are not even just family. They are the boundary between life and death. And together, you all orbit this small miracle in the center of your world. A flame that remembers how not to die. The smell hits you before the bowl lands in your hands. A thick, oily perfume that clings to everything. The hides, your hair, the back of your throat. It's the smell of life. It's also the smell of calories. And in the Ice Age, calories are currency. Not just for movement, not just for strength, but for sleep. You take a bite. It's not elegant. This isn't fine dining. It's survival cuisine. And that means fat. A slab of mammoth belly, roasted until the outer layer crackles, but the inside stays almost gelatinous. Your teeth sink in. The grease coats your tongue, rich and slightly sweet from the rendered marrow dripping into the fire. No one eats quickly, not out of etiquette. Your clan isn't big on napkins and dinner parties, but because rushing wastes warmth. You chew slowly, letting the heat from the food radiate through your chest. Every swallow is a coal in the furnace of your body. Across the fire, a woman crushes something in a stone bowl, dried berries, dark and shriveled. She stirs them into a pot hanging low over the embers. You can smell the sharp tang of fermented fruit mingling with the meat. Not many, just enough to cut the fat. To remind your tongue that life wasn't always winter. And this is the point of it all. You're not just filling your belly, you're building armor from the inside out. Because out here, sleep is dangerous. It's when your body drops its guard, relaxes its grip on heat, and risks sliding into that quiet, permanent stillness that no one wakes from. The food you eat now is the only reason your body won't betray you in your sleep. So you eat more. A long bone, cracked down the middle, is passed around like a treasure. Each person takes a turn scooping the marrow with a sliver of horn. It's warm, almost buttery, calorie-dense, nutrient-rich, and absurdly effective at keeping your inner fire burning through the night. You take your share without hesitation, licking your fingers afterward, even if they're still numb at the tips. Someone jokes quietly, something about how even the wolves would envy this feast. It draws a few chuckles, one of which ends in a cough. The sound of health, or maybe just fatigue. Either way, it's ignored. You finish the last bite and lean back slightly, letting the warmth settle. Your stomach protests for a moment. It's full. Heavier than it's been in days, maybe. But that's good. That's necessary. Because out there, beyond the wall of hides, the cold doesn't just bite. It devours. And your best defense against it is a full belly and a steady metabolism. A small pouch is passed around next, something leathery and stained. When it reaches you, you untie the thong and peer inside. Dried fish. Not fresh, and not from here. From a time and place far enough away that the flavor has become story. You take a piece and chew. It's tough, salty, smoky. A reminder that not everything on the steppe is mammoth. As you chew, someone across the circle lifts a gourd skin and pours a thin stream of liquid into a shallow bowl. It steams faintly. Broth, thickened with rendered fat and a hint of ash. Maybe even herbs, if someone was lucky, or desperate enough to trade for them. A sip burns a little on the way down, but it spreads through your chest like firelight through fog. This is not indulgence. This is science, whether your ancestors knew it or not. The human body burns food to stay warm. But not all food burns the same. Fat burns slow and hot. It's the mammoth dung brick of your metabolism. Carbohydrates, when you can find them, flare quickly. Useful, but fleeting. Protein is a last resort. You save it for rebuilding, not for keeping warm. And you'll need this warmth tonight. Because in the Ice Age, the hours after sunset are not gentle. They are a siege. The outside temperature may fall to 40 degrees Celsius or lower. That's not just cold. It's death in slow motion. Unless you've built a fire inside yourself. And right now, you're doing exactly that. A fringe theory, something the elders whisper more than say aloud, suggests that those who eat just before sleep dream more vividly. That dreams are the body's way of stoking internal heat. Maybe that's nonsense. Maybe it's just something people tell themselves to justify a midnight snack. But then again, historians still argue whether Ice Age people ritualized dreaming as part of survival. Some interpret cave paintings as visual recordings of dreams. Others call that romantic nonsense. But you'll admit, after a bowl of fatty broth and a belly full of meat, you do start to feel a little more relaxed, a little slower, like your bones are softening and your mind is floating just above the fire. Someone belches quietly. Another answers it with a grin. There is no shame in digestion here. It's a badge of survival. Children snuggle into laps. An elder rocks slightly in rhythm with the crackling fire, humming low. It's a wordless lullaby, something passed down longer than language. You exhale slowly and feel the weight of the meal settle into your limbs. Your chest feels heavy, your arms warm. Not like a blanket, like a furnace. You are producing your own heat now. The food is doing its work. And so is the fire, because your internal furnace isn't working alone. This is a group effort, layers upon layers of warmth, building on each other. Food, fire, hides, bodies. But it starts here, with the meal, with the fat, with the unspoken rule that no one goes to bed hungry, not because it's polite, but because it's dangerous. You lie back on your elbows, watching the last of the meat hiss and sputter over the coals. Someone scrapes the cooking stone clean with a flat bone, preserving the precious grease for tomorrow. Nothing is wasted. Even the smell will be absorbed by the hides, becoming part of the long, slow stew of life that permeates this space. Your eyelids flutter for a moment, not out of sleepiness yet, but satisfaction. A primal cellular sense of safety. You are full, you are warm, and you are not alone. Outside, the stars wheel silently over a landscape that wants you dead. Inside, you are winning. You stretch out your legs and feel a gentle pulse of heat radiating from your belly. Not the kind of heat you can see or even touch, but something deeper, like glowing coals buried inside you. That fire you just fed with broth, marrow, and roasted fat, it's working. It's burning slow and strong, and it's going to keep you alive tonight. Because out here, in the middle of an ice age winter, staying warm isn't just about furs or fire. It's about biology. And your body, the one you were born into, the one honed over thousands of frozen generations, is a heat-generating marvel. Take, for instance, the mysterious, quietly heroic tissue nestled between your shoulder blades and around your neck. It's called brown adipose tissue, or brown fat. Unlike the pale, squishy stuff modern humans carry on their waistlines, brown fat doesn't store energy. It uses it. It's your built-in heat engine. When you're cold, it kicks into gear, burning calories purely to produce warmth, like a tiny, silent fireplace under your skin. And you? You've got a lot of it. Infants are born with brown fat, but modern adults don't carry much, unless they train their bodies to cold, or descend from people who lived where the air hurts your face for most of the year. You, however, were born into a world where the cold always hurts your face. Your brown fat is abundant, concentrated in the vital zones, your chest, your back, around your kidneys. That's not evolution being kind. That's evolution being realistic. You are not built for comfort. You're built for survival. You shift slightly and feel your heart thudding slow and steady. That's your metabolic engine, higher than a modern human's even when you rest. Your body runs hot, not in fever, but in fuel. You eat more, burn more, and radiate more warmth than your modern descendants could ever imagine. In a way, you're like a little furnace wrapped in skin and sinew, always cooking, always working. Still cold? No problem. Your body has backup systems. The most obvious one is shivering. That rapid, unconscious twitching of muscles that generates heat. But shivering is inefficient. It's the last resort. A red flag. If you're shivering, something's gone wrong. Your tribe teaches you to avoid it, through food, fire, movement, and layers. And then there's vasoconstriction, a fancy name for an old trick. When the cold becomes deadly, your blood vessels tighten up in the extremities. Fingers, toes, ears, nose. Your body is triaging resources. It says, okay, maybe we can lose a few toes, but we're not losing the heart. It's brutal. But it works. You rub your hands together, partly out of habit, partly to coax blood back into your fingertips. They tingle. Not painful, just alive. That's your nervous system checking in, confirming that yes, things are still flowing. For now. Someone nearby massages their feet, using short, circular motions. A daily ritual, like brushing teeth. If toothbrushes had been invented yet. Keeping blood moving in the extremities is a shared obsession. Because once numbness sets in, the line between frostnip and frostbite gets real thin, real fast. You look down at your arms, covered in soft, well-tanned hide. Beneath that, your skin is probably darker than modern humans might expect. Less from sun, more from centuries of adaptation to varied climates. Your nose is broad, your fingers thick, your body stout. That's not chance. That's thermoregulation. See, in cold climates, compact bodies with short limbs are better at conserving heat. It's called Allen's rule, and you're living proof. You've got less surface area for your size, meaning you lose less warmth. You are, quite literally, built to hibernate upright. A fringe idea floats through your head, something one of the elders once said. That the gods gave humans fat not just for food or heat, but for dreaming. That warmth brings dreams, and dreams bring visions. The sort that help you find the mammoth, or predict the spring melt. Is it true? Maybe. Historians still argue whether Ice Age people believed in a separate dream world, or whether the visions were just the result of firelight flickering behind closed eyes. Either way, the belief persists. And in this world, belief matters. You lean back slightly, hands pressed to your belly, and feel that gentle burn continue. Not the fire of exertion or digestion, but a quiet hum, like something alive within you. You realize with a flicker of satisfaction that your body is doing its part. It's stoking the furnace. It's preserving you, cell by cell, heartbeat by heartbeat. You glance at the others. They're doing the same. Some are still eating, gnawing slowly on bones, licking grease from their fingers. Others are sitting still, eyes half-lidded, letting their bodies absorb the heat. No one is moving fast anymore. There's no need. The danger outside has passed. The real work now is staying warm, staying full, staying ready for sleep. Because sleep is coming. And that's the irony, isn't it? You've eaten enough to power a sled dog team. Your body is a biological marvel, rigged with thermal hacks and evolutionary tweaks. You've hunkered down in a shelter insulated with bones and hides and moss, surrounded by fire and breath and warmth. And still, sleep is not guaranteed. Because even with all that, it only takes one misstep, one cold toe, one clogged vent, one night of underfeeding, and you don't wake up. The Ice Age doesn't forgive. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care how advanced your brown fat is. It just keeps blowing, and it's always hungry. But tonight, you've got this. Your body knows what to do. It's not guessing. It's repeating a 1,000-year-old routine encoded in your DNA. Burn fat. Circulate warmth. Shut down the capillaries in the fingers and feed the fire in the chest. You aren't resisting the cold. You're outwitting it. Silently, efficiently, elegantly. You give your arms one last rub, then let them rest. Your breath fogs softly in front of your face, only briefly, before melting into the dense warmth of the shelter. You are no longer fighting to stay warm. You are warm. And in this world, that's victory. The wind outside groans against the mound, testing for weakness. It finds none. Inside, your body hums like a well-fed flame. You shift your weight slightly, knees creaking, and let your gaze drift upward for the first time in a while. Above you, the ceiling curves gently, dark with soot in places, glinting faintly with the polished sheen of stretched hide. But look closer, beyond the smoke-stained hide, beyond the stitched seams, and you start to see the structure beneath it all. It isn't wood. There are no beams, no rafters. The skeleton of your home is a skeleton. Arcing above you like the ribs of a buried titan are massive mammoth tusks, each one lashed into place with thick, twisted sinew. They rise in graceful loops and meet at the peak of the dome, where they cradle a smoke vent, currently half covered by a leather flap that breathes with the wind. The bones are ancient. Some are yellowed with age, others blackened at the tips where fires have licked too high. One still bears a line of carved notches. Perhaps someone's crude tally of winters survived. Or maybe just a child's quiet rebellion. The walls curve inward slightly, as if the shelter is huddled against the cold. And in a way, it is. You reach out to touch the wall beside you. It yields slightly under your palm. Not bone, not anymore. Not on this side. What your hand feels is a wall of hide. Soft, supple, oiled with care, and stitched with almost impossible precision. Fox, wolf, reindeer. Furs with their warm sides turned inward. You trace a seam with your finger and feel where two different species meet. Wolf to fox, predator to predator, united in the name of insulation. But beneath that hide is a puzzle. A latticework of leg bones, skulls, ribs, tusks. Mammoth mostly, but not entirely. You recognize the flat expanse of a bison's hip bone, and further along, the jagged dome of a giant deer's skull, antlers sawn short to make room. These weren't just used, they were selected, fitted together like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle only a desperate genius could solve. This is not a shack. It's a thermal battery, an animal of its own, once alive in pieces, now reassembled to keep you alive. And between the bone frame and the hide, a secret layer of cleverness. Moss. Dried in the summer, crushed into thick pads, and stuffed between bone and skin like stuffing in a parka. It's not there for decoration. It's there to breathe, to trap warmth, to absorb moisture, to wick condensation away from the living core of the shelter before it can turn into frost. You've seen that moss removed and replaced, season by season, like bedding. The older members of the clan know just how much to use, how tightly to pack it, how dry it must be before it's trusted. Someone once tried using leaves instead. That was a mistake. Too damp, too loud. It rustled like mice in the night and turned to rot by spring. Now it's moss or nothing. You stamp your foot gently on the floor. It doesn't echo. It thuds. Solid. Stable. Not the frozen surface of the open steppe. This floor was dug into the earth, maybe 1/2 meter, maybe more. Not to hide, but to shield. The earth, after all, is the oldest insulation. Beneath the snow, the permafrost holds steady. Cold, yes, but steady. It doesn't plunge the way the air does. Once you dig down a few feet, the temperature stops obeying the wind. It becomes something you can depend on. You don't heat this floor because you don't need to. You just cover it, pad it, and trust it not to betray you in your sleep. In a way, you live inside the steppe, dug into it like a burrow. The bones form the skeleton, the hides, the skin, the moss, the flesh. And the earth? The bones lie on it, the oldest mother of all. Somewhere near the back of the shelter, a teenager coughs and adjusts a flap that's come loose near the ceiling. A fine dust of frost falls from the hide seam, but nothing more. He presses it closed, ties it down with a loop of sinew, and returns to his spot. The cold stays outside. And that's the point, isn't it? This structure is not about looking good. It's about saying no. No to wind. No to frost. No to death. You've built something the Ice Age itself has to reckon with. It's hard to appreciate just how much thought went into this until you see someone patching it. Earlier today, while you were out on the steppe, one of the older women had stayed behind. You see her now, half asleep, but near her is a pile of tools, an awl, a curved needle, a roll of hide cord. She's the keeper of the bones, the seamstress of this great beast of a home. When something shifts, she hears it. When something leaks, she mends it. She's patched more mammoth skin than she's ever worn, and every stitch she makes is a stitch in the lungs of this shelter. A failure of thread is a breath lost to the wind. You notice a hairline crack along one of the tusks near the entrance. Someone's filled it with a mix of mud and crushed bone, patted smooth with fingers, shaped like a scar. The sealant has held. No breeze leaks in. No snow creeps through. It's a silent triumph. Historians still argue whether these Ice Age dwellings were built seasonally or reused year after year. Some say the bone structures were too heavy and permanent to waste. Others believe they were temporary, built when mammoth hunts provided the raw materials. But from inside, it hardly matters. This one feels eternal, as if it has grown out of the land rather than been placed on it. Your eyes travel again to the apex of the dome. There's no light from outside now, just the faint orange bloom of firelight dancing against the inner curve of tusk and hide. The vent at the top is open just a sliver, letting the smoke trickle out in lazy spirals. You've seen it open wider on warmer nights, when the fire can roar a little higher. But tonight is not for roaring. It's for sealing, for surviving. And here, wrapped in bones and skins and dirt, you are wrapped in the memory of animals long gone. The mammoths that built this space with their bodies. The wolves that lent their fur. The grass that dried under a summer sun now buried in snow. You lean your head against the wall. It gives slightly, like a breath held in a thick coat. The wall is warm. Warm. In the middle of the Ice Age. You smile. You're in the belly of something ancient. Something stubborn. And for now, something safe. The last figure from your group ducks through the low tunnel, tugging the stiff hide back into place behind them. Their entrance brings with it a slap of frozen air, a brief, biting reminder of the world you left behind. Everyone flinches instinctively, not in fear, but in sheer reflex. That gust carries the scent of the outside, snow, cold, danger, but it doesn't linger. The flap falls shut again, heavy with moisture and use, and the final ritual begins. It's time to seal the world out. There's no door in the way you might think of one. No wood, no hinges, no latch. Just layers of thick hide stitched into massive sheets, heavy as wet blankets, and far more essential. Tonight, the final seal is a bearskin. Huge, dark, dense. It's nearly the size of the entrance tunnel itself. Dragged across the opening, it lands with a wet thud against the inner frame. Already stiff from the cold, it resists the closure, like something reluctant to admit the warmth inside. But the woman assigned to the task knows what she's doing. She leans her weight into the hide, smoothing it flush against the iron frame. Then, one by one, she selects large stones from a nearby pile. Flat, worn river rocks scavenged long ago and stored specifically for this. They are placed at the base of the hide, anchoring it to the earth. More go along the edges, building a seal. Not perfect, but close enough. You can hear the wind pushing against it, petulant. Like a locked-out ghost, it rattles the flap a little, tests the seams, but it doesn't get in. Not tonight. The shelter holds its breath. For a moment, no one speaks. The silence is thicker than before. Not empty, but full. The sound of the storm has vanished, or rather been pushed out. What remains is interior sound. Your new atmosphere, the pop of fat hitting embers, the rhythmic wheeze of the fire's breath, the soft, wet snort of someone clearing their nose with a thumb. Quiet words exchanged in a corner, muffled by distance and hide. The sleeping shift of skin on skin as someone finds a better seat. These are the sounds of a different world. Not dead, not dormant, just healed. And then comes the breath. Not yours, not any one person's. The shelter's breath. You notice it in the way the smoke shifts. It curls a little differently now, more lazily, hugging the ceiling instead of rising straight through. You notice it in the air itself. Thicker, heavier, damp with the condensation of 20 bodies exhaling in close proximity. This isn't unpleasant. It's necessary. Because outside, the air could kill you in minutes. Inside, that same air has been domesticated, tamed, recycled by lungs and fire and moss and heat. But the balance must be kept. Near the center of the shelter, a man crouches beside the fire pit, his face shadowed by the low flame. He leans forward and adjusts something, what looks like a stone slab, but is, in fact, a vent cover. He cracks it open by a finger's width. It reveals a tiny hole near the base of the wall, barely larger than a pine cone. From it, the cold creeps in, soft as mist. You'd think that's bad, but it's brilliant. That little hole near the floor is how the fire breathes. Cold, dense air creeps in low, feeding the flame from below, lifting the smoke upward toward the roof vent. It's a controlled draft, a lung system. Without it, the fire would die. Or worse, it would choke the entire shelter with carbon monoxide, the silent killer of sealed spaces. Someone coughs lightly, not from illness, from smoke. A reminder. And at the apex of the dome, a matching vent, hidden by fur and bone, is cracked just enough to let smoke escape. If it's opened too far, heat rushes out with it. If it's shut too tight, poison builds. Getting this balance right is an art passed down not in words, but in instincts. You've seen it adjusted dozens of times. Sometimes by the fire tender, sometimes by the oldest grandmother, who doesn't even look anymore. She just feels when something is wrong. Tonight, the balance holds. The smoke moves up and out in a lazy spiral, barely visible against the soot-blackened ceiling. It draws warmth with it, yes, but not too much. Just enough to keep the air breathable, to keep lungs from shutting down in their sleep. You lean back against the hide wall and inhale slowly. The air is warm and wet, tinged with meat and people. It's not clean in the modern sense, but it is alive. It carries the breath of everyone around you. You're inhaling what they exhaled. They, what you gave. You are not separate beings tonight. You are one organism, curled inside the skin of the world, trading oxygen for stories, heat for hope. In the shadows, someone tightens a lash of sinew around a drafty seam. Another repositions a flap near the bedding area. These are small gestures, maintenance, but they are sacred in their own way. Because once the world is sealed out, the danger changes. You don't worry about frostbite anymore. You worry about suffocation, about smoke, about moisture buildup that can freeze into frost along the ceiling and melt down onto your bedding, about the creeping cold at the seams where the hides weren't pulled tight enough. This isn't rest. Not yet. This is vigilance. The shelter lives and breathes, but only because you tend to it like a patient. Historians still argue whether these Ice Age dwellings were permanent structures or rebuilt with the seasons. Some think people returned to the same bone huts year after year, adding repairs like layers of memory. Others believe they dismantled and rebuilt them with every migration. But here, inside this dome, it feels less like a house and more like a living creature. Something with breath, with a pulse, with moods. And right now, it's purring. Someone near the back of the shelter hums softly, an old tune, older than memory. A lullaby, maybe, or a counting song. It winds through the smoke like a thread of calm, barely louder than the fire. It marks the shift in energy. The sealing is complete. The ritual is done. The cold is locked outside, gnawing at the hide with invisible teeth. And inside, you are warm. You are home. The warmth has settled into the space like a second skin. It's not tropical, not even comfortable in a modern sense, but compared to the wind-blasted steppe outside, it may as well be paradise. Your outer garments hang near the fire now, stiff with frost and steaming slightly as they shed their ice. But you can't sleep in those. That would be asking for trouble. So now begins the next crucial step in your nightly dance with death. Undressing. Not completely, not foolishly. Just enough to let your body breathe. Enough to avoid the one thing you fear more than cold. Damp. Moisture is the enemy. Not wolves, not bears, not even starvation. Moisture. You peel off your outer parka, made from heavy mammoth hide, or maybe even bison. It resists you at first, stiffened by ice crystals from hours of breath and snow, but eventually it loosens. You feel the crackle as it folds. The outer surface is crusted with frost, the edges stained darker with evaporated sweat. You hold it up and shake it gently. Ice flakes fall off in a glittering spray. Then it goes to its place, near the fire, but not too close. You've seen what happens when hides catch. One spark can eat weeks of tanning in seconds. Your boots are next. Thick, double-layered creations of leather and fur, stuffed with dried grass for insulation. You unlace them carefully, not because you're dainty, but because frozen laces snap like brittle sticks. Inside your socks, fur wrapped and tied rather than sewn, are damp. Not soaked, but dangerous. You peel them off and replace the inner grass, which has taken on a soggy texture from your sweat. That's expected. That's why the grass is there, to catch moisture before it hits skin. And then comes the real question. How many layers do you remove? It's a judgment call. Your people have no thermometers, but they have intuition. You feel the air against your skin, how fast the sweat is drying, how long your fingers stay numb after exposure. Tonight's not the coldest it's been, but it's close. You decide to leave your inner tunic on, a soft hide shirt made from reindeer dough, tanned to near suede, lined with fox fur at the collar and sleeves. It's not fancy, but it's yours. And more importantly, it's dry. That's the golden rule. Never sleep in what you sweat in, because moisture leaches heat 25 times faster than air. The cold doesn't have to touch you directly, it just needs a little wetness, and you're done. The warmth is pulled from your body molecule by molecule, like a thief too polite to wake you as it kills. So you hang your outer pants by the fire too, looped carefully on a carved wooden peg. Someone's already rotating theirs like meat, ensuring an even thaw. It's a quiet choreography, everyone going through the same ritual, each at their own pace, no one needing to speak. And what you're left in? Your indoor clothes. Don't be fooled by the word. These aren't pajamas, they're just less armory. A supple underlayer of well-smoked hide, soft as cloth, and surprisingly light. Some are sewn with strips of fur facing inward, creating heat pockets next to the skin. Others are layered tight, overlapping like scales, stitched with sinew in decorative patterns that also happen to reinforce stress points. You sit again near the fire, flexing your feet against the padded ground. Even through the inner socks, these ones lined with rabbit fur, you can feel the difference already. Dryness, warmth, relief. Across the room, a girl no older than 10 carefully hangs up her outer tunic, pressing it flat with her hands to ensure it dries evenly. Her mother nods, saying nothing. A lesson taught not in words, but in rhythms. It strikes you briefly how much technology is embedded in these small movements. Not computers, not machines, but knowledge. Layered knowledge. That tunic took weeks to make. Someone trapped the animal. Someone else skinned it. Someone cleaned and scraped it, soaked it in brains and smoke and patience. Then it was cut, stitched, fitted. And now, tonight, it's being carefully maintained so it won't kill its wearer by accident. There's a kind of quiet tension to this moment. The point between exposure and bedding. The dangerous pause where you're not fully armored, not yet nestled. Like being between breaths or between heartbeats. You're vulnerable. That's why everyone moves with such care. Historians still argue whether Paleolithic people understood the science behind hypothermia, or if their behaviors were purely instinctive. Did they know the physics of moisture conduction, or did they just learn the hard way, generation after generation, that wet skin meant death? But honestly, does it matter? They got it right. And here you are, following the same steps your ancestors did before you, maybe 500 generations back. You hang your outer gear, you press your socks near the fire, You rotate your mittens so the frost on the palms melts evenly. You check the seams of your leggings for dampness and dryness. You know what will kill you, and you act accordingly. A few in the group keep small leather bags of crushed moss near their bedding. Desiccants of a sort. Absorbent, useful, a line of defense against wetness in places where airflow can't reach. Someone sprinkles a pinch beneath their bedding spot, another trick passed down through necessity. Even your hair gets attention. If it's long, you tie it back, not for style, but because it holds moisture, which holds cold. The furs around your neck and shoulders would trap that dampness and press it against your spine. It's the kind of mistake you only make once. And with the last garments hung and steaming, with your base layers clinging warm and dry to your skin, you exhale. The critical moment has passed. You are no longer dressed for travel or survival or hunting. You are dressed for sleep. And in the Ice Age, that's no small thing. You're sitting cross-legged now, warm in your dry leathers, the fire still crackling softly behind you. Across the shelter, in the thick glow of the firelight, something catches your eye. A woman, hunched forward, needle in hand, working by touch more than sight. She isn't making art. She's repairing something, slowly, methodically. You lean closer, curious. In her lap lies a child's tunic. It's been well used, creased, softened by wear, and bearing the faint scent of smoke and skin. She threads a long, waxy strand of sinew through a narrow hole in the hide, pulling it tight, her fingers moving with quiet mastery. Her tools are primitive by modern standards, but in her hands, they are magic. In the Ice Age, fashion didn't save lives. Tailoring did. Beside her sits a small pile of the tools of her trade. There's a bone awl, tapered to a fine point, polished from years of use. It's used to punch holes into hide without tearing the fibers. Because tearing means weakness, and weakness means wind. Then there's the marvel, the eyed needle. It's tiny, so small you almost miss it. Made from polished ivory, drilled with the kind of delicacy that seems impossible without magnifying glasses and power tools. But here it is, held between her fingers like a sliver of moonlight. This invention changed everything. It let humans stitch not just crude sacks and capes, but complex body-hugging garments. Sleeves, hoods, gussets, shaped to fit the human form like a second skin. It was nothing short of revolutionary. You know this, not from books, but from living in these clothes every day. There's a reason you can walk, work, and sleep in sub-zero temperatures. Because your clothing isn't draped, it's engineered. And the woman before you is an engineer. Her thread? Not thread. Sinew. Pulled from the long, stringy muscle tissue along the legs and spine of deer or reindeer. When it dries, it shrinks, pulling stitches tighter than anything made by plant fiber. And it doesn't rot. It flexes with the hide, breathes with the weather. It is, for your purposes, perfect. You watch her tie off the end of her repair with a knot so small it might as well disappear. She tests the seam with a firm tug. Satisfied, she runs the tunic through her hands, checking for uneven patches, frayed edges. She sets it aside, reaches for another. This isn't decoration. It's not done for fun. This is essential maintenance, because no matter how many hides you have, no matter how well you build your shelter, if your clothes fail you in the middle of the night, the cold will find a way in, and once it finds a way, it doesn't ask permission. You glance down at your own leathers, your soft indoor shirt, your rabbit fur-lined leggings, your inner socks. Every stitch is holding. Every seam lies flat. Someone, maybe your mother, maybe the woman across the room, made these by hand. She fitted them to you. She measured your shoulders with her eyes, cut the panels with a sharpened flake of stone, and stitched them with sinew softened in her own mouth. And the result? Personal insulation. A wearable shelter. A microclimate of survival. Modern people might look at Ice Age clothing and see crude garments, lumpy and rough, but they don't feel what you feel. The way the inner fur lies flush against your skin, how the leather stretches gently over your joints, the way the layers trap little pockets of warmth without ever letting them escape. It's not bulky, it's dense, like a quilt wrapped in muscle. You shift slightly and hear the soft rustle of your inner layers moving. That rustle? That's the sound of warmth being caught, held, saved for later. Your breath no longer steams in front of your face. That's how you know the system is working. Over the years, some people have found Ice Age sewing kits buried in permafrost. Needles, awls, scrapers, rolls of sinew still tightly coiled. Historians argue about the specifics. Were these mostly made by women? Were they passed down like heirlooms? Were different stitches used for different body parts? The answer is likely yes, and no, and maybe. But when you watch her work by firelight, none of that matters. What matters is that the stitches hold, because one gap in a seam and cold finds your ribs. One missed hole and your thigh loses heat into the ground. One torn armpit and the sweat you worked so hard to avoid gets trapped, starts to freeze. You remember a boy years ago who ignored a small tear in the sleeve of his parka, just a thumb's width gap. It didn't seem like much, until a windstorm caught him 2 days later. His arm froze from elbow to wrist. He kept the arm, but he lost 2 fingers. The lesson never needed to be spoken again. You pull your inner tunic a little tighter now, appreciating the double-seamed neckline. It rides high, overlapping with the fur collar of your undershirt. That overlap is deliberate. Your people don't leave skin exposed. They build their clothes like a series of overlapping scales, redundant, flexible, airtight. It's like sleeping in the world's warmest onion. Nearby, the tailor woman tucks away her tools, sliding the needle into a case carved from the hollow bird bone. The sinew is coiled neatly, the awl wrapped in soft moss to keep it sharp. She doesn't smile or speak. She just nods once to herself and joins the others preparing for rest. And you realize then, everything you're wearing, every warm breath you take, is part of a much larger system. It's not just about fire or food or shelter. It's about layers of planning, of labor, of ingenuity. Even here at the edge of the world, you are surrounded by technology. Not silicon and wires, but bone, hide, and sinew. Not disposable, not replaceable, essential. And tonight, as the fire hisses low and the shelter hums with breath and warmth, your clothes will keep doing their quiet job, holding in the heat, keeping out the death. One stitch at a time. Your eyes flick toward the far side of the shelter, where the sleeping platform begins. Not a bed, exactly. Not soft and springy like something stuffed with feathers or filled with down. This is the ground, raised just slightly above the floor, wide and communal, layered with care and logic, not fluff. You shuffle toward it slowly, like everyone else, your movements hushed and automatic. Sleep is near now. Not a sudden collapse, but a transition. The fire is low, tamed into a steady red pulse. Most of the cooking has ended. Talking has dwindled to murmurs, then to silence. This is the nest. It takes up nearly half the structure, an elevated shelf built into the earth, ringed with stones and padded with layers that have been carefully tended throughout the seasons. It's not just a sleeping space. It's a heat trap, a communal thermal battery. You step up onto it and feel the difference immediately. The first layer underfoot is moss, dry, springy, clean. Gathered in the summer months when the land briefly turns green, it's been sun-dried and stored, then laid here as insulation. It crinkles softly under your weight. Above that, grass, thick, flattened mats of it, woven into broad sheets that feel almost like woven cloth beneath your soles. There are even small feathers worked into the top layer in some places, not for softness, but to add loft, to trap air, to preserve the one thing no one can afford to lose: warmth. You sit, letting your body settle into the uneven firmness of the mattress. It gives just enough, not luxurious but forgiving. And crucially, it keeps you off the cold floor. That's everything, because cold rises from below. Always. It creeps into your bones through the ground. If you sleep on the bare earth, even inside this shelter, it will find you. Seep into your spine. Make your joints stiff by dawn. Or worse. That's why this platform was raised. That's why it was padded. That's why it matters. You reach down and feel the layering again with your hands. Moss, grass, then something thicker. Hides. Heavy, familiar, slightly oily. These are the bottom layers of the bed. Thick pelts that have seen years of use. Bear, probably. Maybe muskox. They're not decorative. They're not even particularly clean. But they are dense. And they are warm. And they are tough. Someone across from you adjusts one of the ground hides, patting it flat where it's bunched up. Another reaches beneath their section and replaces a layer of moss that's grown damp from spilled broth or a wet foot. Quiet maintenance, part of the rhythm of survival. Historians sometimes argue about how intentionally constructed these sleeping platforms were. Some think they were just organic piles of bedding material gathered over time. Others insist they were engineered, elevated, insulated, and maintained as precisely as any modern bed. The truth, if you had to guess, is both. It began as instinct, and then it became tradition. And tradition, as always, hardened into necessity. You lie down slowly, stretching out along the inner edge of the nest. The hide beneath you shifts with your weight, cradling your shoulder blades. It's not soft, but it's secure. That matters more, because what you're lying on isn't just a sleeping surface. It's a boundary between you and the frozen earth, between sleep and death. And above you, nothing yet. But you know what's coming. A murmur stirs the group. A few people stand. It's time for the next step. Building the upper layers. Blankets, to a modern mind, are individual things. Folded, tucked, offered in hotels and linen closets. But here, they are something else entirely. They are group strategy, and it starts with the sleeping nest. As the older children help unfurl the top furs, you feel the air change again. Anticipation, the last phase of preparation. A great reindeer hide sheet is dragged across the nest, fur side down. It spreads over multiple people at once, stitched from dozens of pelts into one immense slab of warmth. It smells of smoke, animal, old stories. Another follows, a patchwork of fox and rabbit. Softer, lighter, layered atop the reindeer. Someone tucks the edge under your side, trapping heat like a wall. You don't mind. You even lift your hip to help. These movements are rehearsed, practiced, the same every night, year after year. You glance around, others are settling in. No one has a spot exactly, but there's an unspoken order. Elders and children go toward the center, adults on the edges, hunters nearest the entrance. It's not a hierarchy. It's thermodynamics. Children are small furnaces with high heat loss. Elders, too. They need the core. You're young. You'll take a side. Still, you smile as one of the little ones flops down beside you, a trail of snot glistening on their cheek, wrapped in a scrap of hair fur. You don't push them away. You shift closer. The last of the upper furs are lowered, thicker, smellier, heavier. One might be cave lion, another Arctic wolf. The stories in each pelt are countless. The weight of them is immense. As they settle over you, it feels like being buried, but not in fear, in safety. You adjust the hide near your chest, folding it in tightly, closing off the gap where warmth might escape. Cold doesn't need a doorway. It only needs a crack. You make sure there are none. Beneath you, grass, moss, fur, earth. Around, breathing bodies, woven warmth, stone, silence. Above you, pelts heavy as law, stitched by hand and firelight. You nestle in, and you understand deeply that sleep in the Ice Age is not a passive thing. It is prepared for, layered, protected, earned. You close your eyes, and the ground holds you gently, like a promise. The weight of the furs settles across your chest like an embrace from a bear. Comforting, but impossible to ignore. They're heavy. That's the first thing. You don't sink beneath them. They press down on you, not in a crushing way, more like an anchor, holding your heat close, reminding your body, stay put, stay warm, stay alive. The topmost layer is the thickest. A massive reindeer hide quilt, stitched together from a dozen pelts, tanned with care and patience over weeks. The smell of it, earthy, smoky, animal, lingers in your nose. Each hair, hollow and fine, is a miracle. These hairs trap tiny pockets of air inside, each one a barrier against the cold. The science might not have names yet, but the principle is known deep in your bones. This fur saves lives. And it's not just the reindeer. There are fox furs tucked in around the edges, used like trim or scarves, their ultra-soft undercoat perfect for wrapping around a vulnerable neck or over a child's bare cheek. You're lucky tonight. Someone passes you a rabbit pelt, still warm from being near the fire. You fold it carefully and press it to your face, the sensation of soft fur brushing your eyelids as they flutter closed. That fox pelt? It's one of the most sought-after furs in your little world. Lightweight, yes, but unbelievably efficient at insulating the most sensitive parts of the body. And it smells a bit nicer than bear hide, which, if we're honest, always has a lingering note of wet dog and iron. The hides on top of you shift slightly as the others settle in. One person tugs, another adjusts. A third grunts softly as they roll to find their preferred position. The sleeping pile isn't chaos, it's choreography. Each movement is tuned to the shared goal. Trap the warmth. Don't let it escape. Don't wake the child who's finally fallen asleep between you. Because these furs, They don't just trap your body heat, they trap everyone's body heat. Each person in this nest is part of a shared furnace, and the hides are the lid keeping that heat from rising and vanishing into the night. You're all part of the same equation now. Someone shifts behind you, sending a small pocket of cold air wafting down your spine. You inhale sharply, then press yourself closer to the person next to you until it's gone. That was a gap, a breach in the insulation. But now it's sealed again. Crisis averted. The edges of the fur blanket are tucked under and around you. Not tightly, just enough to stop drafts. The center of the sleeping nest is still. A child snores faintly. Someone coughs. Someone else hums, almost too soft to hear. You feel the fur settle against your face like a whisper. There's no pillow, but the hides beneath your head are thick enough to feel like one. Maybe there's a bunched-up foxtail coiled under your neck. You use your arm, folding it beneath your cheek. It's warm, familiar. Modern people think of fur as primitive, as crude, but they've never had to survive on the edge of sleep, on the edge of extinction. They've never felt a 40-degree wind clawing at the walls, and known the only thing keeping it at bay is the hair of a reindeer who survived that same wind last year. They've never run their fingers through fur and whispered a thank you. And when the furs are properly placed, tucked and sealed, there's a silence that falls. Not an absence of sound, but a containment of it. Like everything, including the noise, is being kept in, saved, stored for the morning. Historians sometimes debate how these fur blankets were constructed. Were they single massive hides from large beasts, or patchworks sewn together from smaller pelts? Some believe the best ones were multi-layered quilts, with fur facing both in and out, trapping not just one layer of air, but several. Others point to the labor involved and suggest such luxuries were rare. But in this shelter, tonight, you can feel the answer in your bones. These furs were made with intention. You tug a corner of the top layer higher, letting it drape over your shoulder, and suddenly you feel the air go still around your chest. No breeze, no bite. Just a pocket of captured heat, trapped between your body and the blanket. It's your reward for preparation, for layering right, for staying dry, for trusting the system your people built out of nothing but animals, plants, smoke, and memory. And this system, it works. You feel your fingers again, not in pain, not tingling, just comfortably, quietly there. Your feet encased in fur socks and pressed against someone else's calves are no longer cold. Your face, the last part of you exposed, is gently shielded by the rabbit pelt. You've been tucked into a womb made of the world itself. Bone, grass, skin, and fire, each playing its part. You're not in a sleeping bag. You are the bag. The warmth is inside you. The walls are around you. And everything that isn't needed has been locked out. You take a deep breath, and the smell of fur fills your lungs. It's not unpleasant. A little dusty. A little earthy. There's a hint of meat smoke and moss and breath. It's the smell of warmth, of people, of endurance. You exhale slowly. Your body is sinking. The weight of the blankets presses your heartbeat into your ribs. You can feel the shape of your own warmth radiating back at you. Outside, the wind claws at the walls. Inside, your eyes begin to close. And under all those layers, fur on moss, on skin, you begin to fade. Not into danger, into sleep. The fire is now just a hush of red coals, a faint glow pulsing through the embers like the heart of the shelter itself. The voices have stopped. The movements stilled. Everyone is cocooned beneath the weight of hides and silence. And now comes the final insulation, each other. You feel it first as pressure along your side. Not uncomfortable, not invasive, just presence. A body, warm, real, breathing, pressed against yours, not one, not two, but many. There's no such thing as sleeping alone here, not unless you want to die. The clan sleeps as a single unit, a living knot of flesh and fur and breath. It isn't cuddling. It's thermodynamics. It's strategy. You are no longer 20 individuals. You are a single breathing organism, a multi-limbed creature huddled around a flickering core of fire and instinct. You shift slightly, adjusting your shoulder against the hip of the man beside you. He's already asleep, judging by the slow, deep rhythm of his breath. On your other side, a small child is curled into your ribs, their feet like little stones tucked under your thigh. Their hair smells of smoke and berries. You don't move them. That child is pure heat. The arrangement is not random. The most vulnerable sleep in the center of the pile. The infants, the elderly, the sick. They are the smallest candles, the weakest flames. But here, in the center, they burn safely. Around them, like a shell, sleep the strong. Young adults, hunters, mothers. The outermost layer belongs to those whose bodies run hottest, whose wakefulness comes easiest. If the cold is going to breach, it'll meet them first. You are somewhere in the second layer tonight. Not quite shielded, not quite shielding. A good place, a safe place. The hides above you are heavy, but the people are heavier. You don't mind. Every touch is a pulse of reassurance. The soft press of a knee against your calf. A forearm across your back. A forehead resting briefly against your shoulder before shifting away. None of it is affection, exactly. But none of it is not. It's trust. A dog whines quietly from the far side of the shelter, then nestles deeper into the pile. Even the animals know the rules. Get close. Stay still. Share what heat you have. You exhale, and your breath warms the space beneath the rabbit pelt wrapped around your face. It doesn't travel far. The air here is still, heavier than before, saturated with the breath of 20 people, 20 hearts, 20 furnaces. If you listen, you can hear it. Not the air, but the sound of being warm together. There's a low hum, too. Not a voice. More like a murmur that exists just above silence. The sound of chests rising and falling, of furs shifting, of sleep descending. And your body? It obeys. Your shoulders sink into the moss-lined bedding. Your hips relax. Your hands, wrapped inside your tunic sleeves, drift closer to your belly. That heat you built earlier, through food, through fire, through clothing, is now being matched, amplified, by the warmth of those beside you. You are part of a chain, each link reinforcing the next. This isn't just huddling. It's an ancient engineering system, perfected long before science gave it a name. You think of it like a human hearth. The same way the fire burns at the center of the shelter, you all burn here, together, low and slow, radiating just enough energy to survive the siege of night. You recall an old story, something the elders tell, half true and half wishful, about a woman who once tried to sleep alone during the hunting season. She built a fine shelter, had plenty of food, even had dogs with her. But she didn't make it. Not because she starved, not because she was attacked, because there was no one to hold the heat in. That's what the story says. Whether it's true or not, you believe it. Because lying here, pressed between people like logs in a fire, you understand something no textbook could teach. Warmth is social. Heat is communal. And sleep out here in this world, in this time, is a team sport. Modern people sometimes ask why early humans didn't sleep in shifts. Why not keep a fire stoked while others rest? And yes, you do take turns watching. But sleep itself? It's not rotational. It's concentric, layered, like rings in a tree. Those at the center fall deepest. Those at the edges stay lighter. No one's fully alone. No one's fully awake. It's balance. It's physics. It's survival. You feel the child beside you twitch in their sleep. Maybe dreaming of snow or fire or mammoths. Their breath quickens, then slows. Your hand moves without thinking and rests lightly over their ribs. A shield. Just for a moment, just to remind their body you're safe. And in doing so, your own body relaxes further. The act of giving warmth brings it back to you. You're not cold, not even a little. Outside, the steppe howls. The wind screams like it's angry at being shut out. And it has been shut out. By bones, by hides, by furs, and by this quiet pile of people who have refused to die. You close your eyes, and this time, you don't open them again. You drift. Not into dreams yet, but into the space before dreams. The soft, humming dark. Your breath joins the rhythm. Your limbs are no longer your own. They belong to the pile, the warmth, the living body made of bodies. And in that warmth, you vanish. Just for the night. Sometime in the slow drift of pre-sleep, you feel another shape pressed gently against your back. It's not human. Too small. Too light. Too deliberate. It noses into the curve of your spine, exhales and settles. A warm, coarse breath tickles your ribs through the fur-lined tunic. One of the dogs has joined the nest. You don't turn. You don't need to. You know them by feel. This one is lean, shaggy, probably the younger male. His paws are still damp from the last trip outside. He's seeking warmth and giving it in return. This too is part of the system. They're not pets. Not exactly. These aren't golden retrievers snoozing on polished wooden floors. These dogs, or proto-dogs, or wolf dogs, or whatever future scientists will call them, are your companions in the oldest sense of the word. They share the bread. They share the shelter. And most importantly tonight, they share the bed. There are at least 3 of them in here with you now. One curled against the boy across the fire pit. Another nestled behind the elder woman near the vent. And this one, this breathing, loyal pressure against your back, has chosen you. There's something sacred about it. Not in a mythic, glowing aura way. Just in a practical, we make each other warmer way. Because that's what this relationship is. Mutualism. You offer them food scraps, bones, shelter from the wind, and a place in the pile. In return, they offer warmth. Early warning for danger. and a quiet kind of loyalty that is both ancient and transactional. There are no collars here, no commands barked, just an unspoken agreement that survival is easier together. And oh, the warmth. The dog against your back is like a breathing stone from the fire. His body radiates heat in a way no fur blanket can. He tucks himself in, spine to spine, like a missing puzzle piece. You feel the rise and fall of his breath match your own. His ribs expand against yours. You're not cuddling. You're combining surface area, maximizing thermal exchange. You are heat partners now. He shifts once, finding a better angle, then exhales deeply. A puff of warmth creeps beneath your tunic. His paws flex in a dream. You smile, eyes still closed. Some historians argue about when exactly this relationship began, whether dogs were domesticated 15,000 years ago or 30,000, whether they were lured into human camps for food or recruited as hunting allies. But lying here, you don't care about the debate. What matters is this. At some point, long ago, a wild animal walked into a human fire circle and didn't get chased away. And you've been sharing warmth ever since. The others barely stir at the presence of the dogs. This is normal. Expected. Every night, they find their spots. Sometimes at the edge of the pile, sometimes burrowed between legs or curled in hollows made by sleeping humans. They're smart. They know not to sprawl too far or steal the best places. And when they get too hot, they move. Adjust. Just like you. The little girl in the center murmurs something in her sleep and throws an arm across the dog beside her. The dog doesn't flinch, just shifts, exhales, stays. There's a rhythm here, an understanding so deep it predates speech. You've watched these animals on the steppe, running ahead during hunts, ears perked at the scent of prey. You've seen them circle and return, heard them growl at night when something in the dark got too close. They earn their place in this bed with more than just fluff. But tonight, their job is this, a living blanket with teeth. You feel your dog's tail twitch against your leg. He's dreaming now, chasing something. Maybe a hare, maybe a scent you'll never understand. His ears flick, and you instinctively reach a hand out, resting it on his shoulder. He settles. The dream fades. Your hand stays there, because in this shelter, under these hides, nothing is wasted. Not calories, not breath, not body heat. The dog's warmth is as valuable as your own. And you, in return, are a son to him. There's an intimacy in that, a simplicity stripped of sentimentality. No one in this shelter thinks of the dogs as lesser, nor are they equals in the human sense. They are partners, allies against the cold. And that alliance is reaffirmed nightly in the way you sleep. Together, silent, sharing heat like it's water in a desert. Sometimes you wonder what the Ice Age would have been like without them. Colder, certainly. Lonelier, definitely. You'd still survive, probably, but less efficiently, less comfortably. You'd have to huddle tighter, stack more furs, stay closer to the fire. But with the dogs, it's easier, warmer, livelier, and safer. There was a time last winter when a wolf pack came close. Too close. Before any human stirred, it was the dogs who heard. They didn't bark, not the way dogs bark now. They growled low, woke the hunters, and melted back into the dark. No fight, no loss. Just a shared alert. A whisper of teeth in the night. That's what they give you. Heat, yes, but also ears, nose, warning. Tonight, though, there is no danger, no wind-borne threat, no howling from the ridge, only the even, slow rhythm of sleep. Yours, the others, and the animals. You shift slightly, allowing the dog beside you more space. He fills it immediately, resting his head near your shoulder. You feel the gentle tap of his breath, warm and steady. Together you ride the night, not as man and beast, but as creatures with shared needs. You, with your stitched furs and brown fat and fire. He with his coarse coat and twitching nose and dream-born instincts. You've both chosen this pile of hides, this firelit hill of survival, and you've both chosen each other. It's not love, but it's enough. Time slows. The fire has quieted to the occasional pop, an ember collapsing into ash. The air, thick with warmth and sleep, feels heavier now, almost syrupy. You lie still, nested deep within the furs and bodies, and your senses begin to shift inward. Everything is soft, muted, dim. This is the drifting, the borderland between waking and sleep, where time bends, sound deepens, and your awareness dissolves at the edges. You're not dreaming yet, but you're close. Your thoughts are no longer arranged in neat lines. They spool out like smoke, curling lazily into memory, sensation, fragments. You blink slowly, though your eyes don't fully open anymore. The weight of the reindeer hide quilt presses into your chest, grounding you. You feel the rise and fall of the bodies pressed against yours. Some human, some not. Their heat, their breath, their mass. It's all part of your world now. You don't distinguish between them. It doesn't matter who is who. Only that they're there. The crackle of the fire has quieted into a low, intermittent hiss. Occasionally a coal splits, sending a tiny red spark upward before it fades. The dog at your back lets out a slow grunt and exhales. His body shifts again, closer, then still. Even the wind outside has dulled. You can hear it if you strain for it, but it no longer sounds angry, just tired, like a beast that's prowled the steppe all day and now curls around your shelter to rest. You can hear the child breathing, light and fast, a fluttering little rhythm tucked into your side. They kick once in their sleep, and their foot lands on your leg. You don't move it. It's like a warm stone, a touch of life. And you don't want it to go. Your ears begin to adjust to the new soundscape. There's the deep, nasal snore of one of the older hunters, rhythmic, like distant waves hitting a frozen shore. There's the creak of the shelter, small adjustments as the wind outside flexes the hides. There's the whisper of fur rubbing against fur, the sigh of sleep catching someone mid-breath, the rustle of dried moss shifting beneath an elbow. And then, every now and then, silence so deep you wonder if time has stopped. You're still awake, but not entirely. Your mind begins to wander. Not in words, in sensation. You feel the ridge of a seam in your tunic pressing into your hip. You consider adjusting, but it's not worth the effort. Your toes are warm, no small miracle. Someone's foot is against them. You don't know who. Maybe you never will. That's part of the beauty of this sleeping system. Anonymity in heat. There's a faint itch on your shoulder. You imagine scratching it. You don't. Instead, you imagine it fading. And it does. The fur near your face is rabbit. You can tell by the way it shifts like breath when you move your nose. It tickles you. You don't care. You're warm. You're safe. You're disappearing. Historians debate what kind of dreams Paleolithic people had. If they dreamed of the hunt, of fire, of animals that spoke in human voices. Some theorize that their dreams were darker, more urgent, shaped by the daily need to survive. Others think they dreamed more vividly than we do today, surrounded by the fire's flicker, the scent of hides, the deep pressure of the earth beneath them. There are even cave paintings, some say, that might be records of dreams, shapes that couldn't exist, creatures twisted by imagination, fingers reaching into the void. But here, in this moment, drifting between firelight and forgetting, you realize something. It doesn't matter what the dreams mean. What matters is that you're warm enough to have them. Because in this world, dreaming is a privilege. You listen to the world one more time before letting go. The old hunter snoring, the fire whispering, the child breathing, the dog shifting, the hide above you creaking as someone tightens it against the cold, and your own breath, slow and steady, fogging the tiny space beneath the pelt at your face. You let your mind wander farther. You think of summer, the one that lasted 6 weeks. You think of the smell of sun-warmed stone, of the splash of fish in meltwater, of the sound a mammoth makes when it bellows across the plain. You think of laughter, of meat, of footsteps in snow that crunch just right. You think of fur drying on racks, of the hum of scraping tools, and then you stop thinking altogether. Because now, the body takes over. You are no longer managing warmth. You are radiating it. You are no longer bracing against the cold. You are protected. You are no longer preparing to sleep. You are sleeping. The shelter holds you. The pile holds you. The breath of the dog behind you holds you. And all around the steppe howls in vain. You're gone, but not lost. You're home. You don't know what woke you, not fully, not sharply. It's more like a feather brushing the edge of a dream, a change in the texture of the dark, a subtle shift in the air, or a body moving near you. You drift up toward waking, but not all the way. You're floating, half sleeping, half aware. Your eyes stay closed, but your ears open. There's a faint rustle nearby, a creak, then the soft crunch of bone under a careful foot. Someone is up. Not many, just one. That's expected. This is the night watch. You feel their presence rather than see them. A silhouette crossing the low glow of the fire. A shape, hunched and quiet, ghosting through the haze of fur and breath. They're not awake because they want to be. They're awake because someone always has to be. In a shelter this sealed, this full, sleep isn't a solo act. It's a relay race. One sleeper stirs, another takes the torch. Together, you build a safety net out of partial wakefulness and shared duty. You shift slightly beneath the hides, but not much. You don't want to disturb the others. The child curled at your side murmurs something, nudges closer. The dog behind you lifts his head, ears flicking once, then settles again. From across the shelter, a few embers spark. The figure tending the fire kneels beside the hearth, lifting a long, dark bone from the fuel pile. You recognize it by its sheen. Greasy mammoth leg, split and dried to perfection. It's not just fuel. It's long burn fuel. The kind saved for the coldest hours. The bone is placed with care, nestled among the coals like an offering. There's no poking, no stoking, just contact. Heat meets marrow, and smoke begins to curl upward, slow and fragrant. A faint hiss follows, like meat hitting a pan. The fire accepts it. The shelter sighs. The sleeping bodies, even unconscious, seem to respond. A collective exhale. A slight realignment of limbs. A fur pulled tighter here. A foot tucked in there. The temperature rises by half a breath. The balance is restored. The watcher, whoever it is, moves with practiced quiet. You catch glimpses. The gleam of an eye. The gleam of an ivory tool tucked in a belt. A flash of braid in the firelight. Maybe it's one of the mothers, or the eldest son, or even the old man who always claims he sleeps too lightly anyway. It doesn't matter. What matters is someone is awake. Someone is keeping the fire alive. Someone is making sure the vent hasn't frozen shut. That snow hasn't piled against the tunnel entrance. That the heavy hide hasn't sagged inward with ice and wind. You've heard stories, true ones, of what happens when no one wakes. The fire dies. The smoke builds, the air thickens. And one by one, the breathing slows and stops. But not here. Not tonight. The vent, you notice, has been adjusted. The airflow is better. The smoke curls upward again instead of pooling above your heads. You feel your lungs open a little wider. It's like the shelter has taken a clean breath. And now so do you. The watcher doesn't return to their bed immediately. They crouch near the hearth for a while, palms out, absorbing the warmth. You can almost feel their thoughts, counting how much fuel remains, listening for sounds from the wind, scanning the circle for any sign of distress. This isn't paranoia, it's protocol, because dangers don't wait for daylight. There could be a cave-in if the snow grows too heavy. There could be wolves, bold and starving, drawn to the breath and warmth inside. There could be nothing, but there could be something, and that's enough. So someone stays up, not the whole night, but long enough, until the next watcher stirs, until the fire pulses strong again, until the breath in the shelter settles into that slow, synchronized rhythm of deep sleep. You drift a little higher toward consciousness, then let it go. You don't need to rise. You don't need to worry, because even here, even now, in a world before alarm clocks or thermostats or safeties of any kind, someone is keeping the cold at bay. They're watching the coals. They're watching you. Historians debate whether Paleolithic people had formal watches, if they assigned shifts, or simply trusted instinct. Maybe they didn't need to decide. Maybe their bodies took turns without being asked. After all, sleep isn't uniform. One person tosses, another stirs. And somewhere in that quiet cycle, the fire is tended, the danger checked. A system older than clocks, as old as breath. The watcher finally settles back down. They move like fog, slipping into the pile, finding their place, tugging the hides back up without fuss. A dog noses their knee and receives a scratch behind the ear. The fire crackles in approval, and now it's quiet again. Not silent, just steady. You exhale, deeper now, closer to full sleep again. Your awareness begins to fade, soothed by the knowledge that you are not alone in your rest, that the fire is alive, that the shelter breathes, that someone else's eyes were open even as yours closed. You let go. Not into darkness, into trust. The night is endless. Or at least, it feels that way. Time has slipped its leash. There's no sun, no stars, no clock ticking on the wall. Just the long, velvety dark pressing in on all sides, like thick fur against your cheeks. Somewhere beyond the wall of bone and hide, the Ice Age continues its quiet war on anything warm and breathing. But inside, the warmth holds. Just barely. This is the hardest part, the pre-dawn, the longest hours. They creep in silently, like frost through a crack in the wall, subtle and slow. And though you're buried deep in the nest, surrounded by bodies, tucked beneath layers of hide, you feel it, the shift. The warmth isn't as rich now. The air has cooled. The fire has settled into a pile of quiet coals, no longer glowing so much as resting. Your skin notices first, a faint chill along the back of your neck, the air biting a little at the tip of your nose. You don't move yet. Not fully. You just shrink, minutely, instinctively. You pull the rabbit pelt tighter across your face and press your legs more firmly against the person beside you. You're not alone in this. All around, bodies begin to contract. The great human hearth draws inward, like a giant flower curling shut before the dawn. Shoulders hunch, knees draw to chests. Arms wrap around torsos or strangers. There's no line anymore between family and not. The rules of waking life don't apply here. This is survival mode. And the nest reacts like a living organism, not with words, with movement, pressure, position. Warmth is conserved through proximity. You feel someone shift closer behind you, their hand resting briefly on your back before slipping under your hide to steal a little of your heat. You let them. Of course you do. In the center, the child stirs, whimpers once, then goes quiet again, swaddled tighter by the ring of bodies around them. It is not fear that wakes you now. It is awareness. The awareness that this is the most fragile moment of the night. The moment when even your own body begins to doubt its defenses. When the calories you ate at dinner are nearly spent. When the fire is only a memory. When dreams grow thin and shallow. You don't sit up. You don't panic. You endure. Outside, the cold is at its most powerful. The temperature has dropped steadily through the night, and now it sits at the bottom of the curve. Ice's golden hour. Maybe it's 40, maybe colder. You'll never know. You'll never want to. What you do know is this. If you were to crawl out now, even for a moment, your skin would crisp like a leaf. The cold wouldn't even bite. It would take. But you don't go out. No one does. Not yet. Inside the shelter, the air has cooled too. Slightly. Subtly, the kind of chill that sneaks into your chest and steals a breath before you realize it. You adjust, half asleep. Your body draws tighter. A foot tucks under a thigh. Your nose presses against someone's shoulder blade. Even the dog is curled tighter than before. He no longer dreams. He simply is. A compact heat source, wrapped in himself and folded against your hip like a stone in a hearth. This hour doesn't need words. It's a lesson you've known since childhood. The coldest part comes just before the light. It is always this way. Your body reacts without needing commands. Your heart slows slightly, conserving energy. Your breath becomes shallow. You stop sweating entirely. Every pore clamped shut like a window. Even your thoughts feel more distant now, thinner, like voices heard through snow. You're not in danger, not yet, but you are at risk. So you let go of dreams. You trade them for heat. Even in this half-conscious state, your instincts take over. You adjust your body like a puzzle piece, finding better contact with the people around you. A thigh against yours, a back pressed to your spine. Hands. Find hands under the furs, not to hold, but to share warmth. And this is the miracle. You survive this hour not because of fire, or fur, or fortitude. You survive it because you are part of a group. A single person, lying in this cold, would not wake, no matter how strong, no matter how fed. The body cannot outlast the dark alone. But together you burn, like a low fire wrapped in skin. Historians sometimes underestimate this. They focus on tools, on mammoth traps and flint blades and hunting routes. But here, now, in the long dark of an Ice Age night, you realize the truth. Warmth is social. You do not survive the night by being the strongest. You survive it by being close. Your eyes are closed again now, not from sleep, but from focus, from effort. You're not relaxing. You're enduring. But even here, in the lowest hours, there is comfort in the breathing around you, in the familiar smells, smoke, hide, sweat, fur, in the sounds of people shifting, murmuring, snoring, dreaming, and in the knowledge that this will pass. That dawn will come. The light may be grey, thin, and cruel. It may not bring heat, but it will bring motion, fuel, food, fire. You just have to last a little longer. You press your forehead into the back of the person ahead of you, the hide between you now damp with shared breath. Their warmth meets yours. Your breath fogs softly beneath the furs. The child's hand, somewhere near your chest, curls tighter into a fist. And still, no one speaks. No one needs to. The huddle breathes, the shelter holds, and the long night prepares to end. It begins with a shift in the air. Not warmer. No, the cold still lies heavy across the shelter, but different, finer, thinner, like the atmosphere itself is adjusting its posture. You're not fully awake, but your skin senses it first. Something beyond the fur, the fire, the pile. A signal. A small rustle. A hide being moved. Someone, perhaps the same figure who tended the fire earlier, perhaps a new watcher, moves quietly toward the tunnel. You hear them breathe once, then the scrape of stone being lifted, a groan of stiff hide pulled back. Then a sliver of light, sharp and pale as a blade. It cuts across the ceiling, spearing through smoke and shadow. It's not bright. It's not golden. It's blue. The color of glaciers. The color of breath held too long. And with it comes a breeze so cold it feels wet, like someone tossed a snowflake directly into your lungs. Everyone feels it. You do. The body beside you stirs. A child moans and burrows deeper. The dog at your back huffs, lifting his head, sniffing once, then flopping back down with a thud. The spell of the night is breaking. Not violently, but steadily. like a tide rolling back from shore. The watcher crouches by the tunnel and adjusts the flap, letting in just enough light to say it's time, but not enough to let the cold steal what you've built through the night. You blink against it. Your eyelashes are crusted with salt and sleep. You don't sit up yet. No one does. There's always this moment, this fragile, reluctant stir as the living nest awakens. Someone yawns, a low, cracked sound. Someone else stretches beneath the pile, causing the furs to lift and then fall again in a soft wave. You shift one leg free, just slightly, testing the air outside the hides. Still cold. Of course it is. It always is. But it's morning. You've made it. The hunter to your left grunts and rolls out from under the pile with practiced ease. He winces as the air hits his skin, but he doesn't complain. He simply begins the process. Clothing first. Outer leathers, cold and stiff, pulled on quickly, violently. Damp gear from last night now half thawed by the fire. Others follow, slowly, each at their own pace. No alarm, no bells, just instinct. You begin peeling back the top layer of fur, letting it slide off your chest. The heat escapes like breath from an opened oven. You shiver, but smile, because it's over. The siege of the night. The long, slow burn. You survived it. The air is smoky still, but the color is changing. No longer that deep, warm black of midnight, but a paler gray. The outline of tusks overhead becomes clearer. The glint of someone's eye across the shelter catches the light. A sleeping mat is folded. A hide is shaken. Someone breaks the frost from their leggings with a hard slap. Even the fire is waking. A few coals are coaxed back to life with a fresh bone, a whisper of dry moss. Soon the flames lick upward again. Not strong, not yet, but ready. A thin pot of broth is placed on a stone. The smell of reheated fat blooms. You sit up fully now, the hide slipping from your shoulders. The cold bites your chest, and for a second you inhale sharply, but it doesn't reach you. Not all the way, because you're still warm inside. The fat you ate last night still burns. Your body hasn't forgotten the fire. It remembers. And around you, others rise. Hair tousled, eyes blinking, faces slack with sleep but calm. This isn't surprise. It's ritual. No one speaks at first. There's nothing to say. You survived. So did they. The nods exchanged aren't greetings. They're acknowledgements. We are still here. You pull on your outer tunic, still a little damp from the night before. Your fingers ache as they lace the front, but the ache is reassuring. You feel them. That's good. The dogs shake themselves and trot toward the entrance. They sniff the flap and return, unconcerned. No fresh snow piled against the tunnel. No predator scent. Just morning. One of the elders is already near the fire, stirring something in a skin pot. He dips a carved ladle and offers it to the child, who's now sitting up, hair like thistle, eyes still half closed. The child drinks. Steam curls from their lips. You're next. You accept the same ladle, sip once. It's thin, greasy, warm. Perfect. As the light grows stronger, you notice the colors returning. Not many, but enough. The hide walls take on a slight hue, the yellow tint of tanned reindeer skin, The greenish stain where moss pokes through seams. The people around you are still in shadows, but now you can see the curve of cheekbones, the glint of beads at a collar, the pinked tips of ears rubbed against fur all night. It's beautiful in its own way, not dramatic, but earned. You glance toward the entrance again. That beam of cold light slices through the shelter like a spear, but no one blocks it. It's not a threat anymore. It's a signal. You can go out soon. Not now, but soon. There will be new snow to walk through, frozen meat to carve, gear to dry, snares to check. A mammoth track, maybe, out on the steppe, waiting for someone to find it. But first, this moment, this pause in the pile of furs and bodies and breath, this quiet triumph. You've slept through a night that, by all reasonable standards, should have killed you. Again. And it wasn't luck. It was layers. It was heat. It was the fire, the hides, the nest, the fur, the food, the breath of a dog against your spine, and the human body's ancient, exquisite stubbornness to stay warm. You look around at the shelter. Bones and smoke, moss and hide, steam and memory, and you realize something simple and enormous. This works. It doesn't look like a miracle, but it is. You've made it through another night in the Pleistocene. Still breathing, still warm, still alive. And now, all is still again. The fire sighs quietly behind you, its last embers whispering their glow across the chamber. The shelter has emptied, the bodies dispersed into the day, but their warmth lingers in the air, faint, ghostly, kind. You remain, wrapped in your hide, your legs still curled beneath you, your eyes soft and half-lidded. The light from outside no longer cuts like a blade. It filters gently now, scattering through the smoke hole in pale, forgiving beams. A warmer wind creeps through the stones at the entrance, not cruel this time, but clean, as if even the Ice Age knows when to exhale. Everything has softened. Your body, once braced against the cold, now surrenders into a kind of floating warmth. The furs that cover your shoulders feel heavier, but not in a burdensome way. More like a blanket of memory, of effort, of endurance. The hush is complete. You can still hear the breath of the world, distant, wind-carved, slow. The faint creak of hide against bone as the shelter settles into its new day. The dull clink of stone tools being lifted outside, far from here. But here, there is only stillness. Let it carry you. Let the sensation of being safe, of having survived, of being held by warmth and ingenuity and simple human care drift around you like snowflakes falling on silence. You are part of something ancient now, something strong, something that, despite the dark, despite the cold, despite every reason not to, it keeps waking up each morning and building the fire again. So close your eyes now. Let your breath grow slower. Let the furs grow heavier. Let your thoughts trail off, one by one, into the white distance. The Ice Age is behind you, and sleep is just ahead.